Good morning, comrades. Hope everyone's doing great. Somehow my phone deleted my first recording of this, which was like half an hour, so I'm a little pissed off right now. Anyway, all right, so welcome back to Nikke Goddess of Victory. We're going to talk about chapter 30, which is named Treasure. So from the last episode, we were in that like glass area, and we got to a crystal area, and we break through the wall, and we end up seeing a giant cube floating in there. And this is a harmony cube, and there's a whole discussion about how like Aelid, they're like, what is that giant thing? And then Aelig's like, that's a harmony cube. And Anis and Neon are like, that can't be a harmony cube. Harmony cubes are little. And harmony cubes are actually devices that we equip onto Nikke's in the game, in the gacha game, that gives them more power because they increase computational ability and they all have special abilities and stuff like that. And so they're part of how we level up and make our Nikke stronger. But Aelig and Trony kind of explained that this is harmony cubes were originally like this. Like they're originally developed because of their vast computational capabilities to build arcs, to build cities, and that they this is actually the correct size. That the little ones are made later on to kind of like give Nikke's more of an advantage in battle, and that over time the giant ones have kind of like disappeared, right? So this is an ancient artifact at this point. And what this means is that someone is trying to build an arc here, like some non-human civilization, is what Aelig says, is trying to build a city here. And she gets super excited about that because that means she can bring boom to them to them in their fundamental state and make boom a core part of their cultural like heritage or something. And she gets almost orgasmic about the whole situation. After calming her down, we see a white building off in the distance, so we head there. When we get there, it looks completely fake, as in you can't go inside. It's just like what's the thing called, like in movie sets or whatever. It's just like kind of the visage of having a building. And Shifty mentions there's a power signal nearby. And so we look over and we find Liverin there. And then Fragile wanders up to her and is like, hey, Liverin, you doing okay? And Liverin's in like some sort of like dream state where she's kind of completely out of her mind. And she starts talking very calmly about how she made a bad deal and how everything's going to be okay now. Or, she's sorry about teaming up with Sixo again and stuff. And Fragile's like, you teamed up with Sixo again? And then Liverin like comes out of her little state and is like, oh my gosh, did I say that out loud? This isn't a dream. And Fragile's like, did you team up with Sixo again? Did you lie to me? And Liverin's like, Fragile, I'm so sorry. And then Fragile pulls out a gun and starts like shooting at her. Like she's going to kill her. And Neon and Anis jump on her and try to hold her down, but they're not able to. And then Rappy goes up and like slams her on the ground and pulls the gun arm back. And Fragile just keeps kind of firing and screaming about how Liverin's a liar, and Liverin keeps crying and saying that she's sorry. And eventually she runs out of bullets, Fragile does. And then Liverin tells us her story. She tells us that, she was having issues making money and all that stuff after the delivery jobs drew up. So she became a courier and she started doing like really shady stuff. But if she was making money and she was living the high life, she was living in like nice apartments. She had like 5-star restaurants and all this stuff. And so she was doing more and more and more. And then eventually someone close to her died. And then at that point, she was like, she stopped doing shady jobs. And then she promised Fragile she told Fragile that if she ever gets back involved with these shady jobs again, that to kill her. And then Fragile said she would, but that after that she'd kill herself because then she would have no one left in the world. And so that's how we got to where we got here. And then we find out that the Nikke that died was close to Liverin was actually Fragile's sister, and that's what kind of drove this whole thing. And that it wasn't that Liverin killed her sister, it's that she was also engaged in these shady jobs, and so that's what got her killed. And then we start to discuss with Liverin about like when Sixo started blackmailing her, getting involved with her, she should have told Ingrid, but then no, Ingrid would have mind switched her or done something else, like put her in the scrap heap or whatever. And then Drilly was like, hey, you should have told Sixo to go fuck herself, and just got the mind wipe or whatever. And Liverin's like, well, it seems so simple when you say it like that. And Drilly is like, it is. In fact, if you can't do it, I'll go do it. And Liverin starts freaking out because you can't stop Sixo. She like runs the dark net. Like the central government has tried to like shut down these servers and they haven't been able to do it and stuff. And then we have like a recall from Moron's event, the Dirty Backyard from before. And there are, most of the events are in the game that are not like part of the main story are kind of just like spuriously related to like, is this canon? Is this not canon? Are these just like fun thoughts? Do these happen like in the far future, like after all the stuff in Goddess Victory's main story is over or whatnot? Who knows? But some of them are like very distinctly part of the canon and they exist in a certain amount of time. Like this one, Arcana's story. Some of the more wackadoo ones are kind of like whatever. And some of them have like some interesting implications to like the main story, but they are like almost like not canon. They're just like fun stories to expand upon like the Nikke's like personalities and whatnot. All right. And so this is also where I get this is where I got the confusion that I mentioned earlier, where I was like, I don't know if 60 was a man or a woman, is because Liverin specifically says that, but it seems like everything else says that she's a woman. And so it really seems like this is just bad localization, because that became like an issue at some point in like modern day, where like the localizers were just like of like Asian stuff were just doing like whatever they wanted and not taking their job seriously, and then trying to insert a bunch of like random bull crap to like push their agendas and stuff. And then even in the Nikke community, I remember getting surveys as of like even like a year and a half ago that were like questioning. They were like, hey, has our localization gotten better? Has the translation gotten better? Is it like easier to understand? Does the story make more sense? Because there was clearly issues that they had to deal with that people were like, this is stupid. Like, what is going on? Right. And so that was like a huge problem at some point. Anyway, Drilly again is like, fuck Tixo, I don't care if I get pulled into her crazy nonsense. I'm not worried about it. Like, I'll take care of myself. I'm gonna do the right thing. And then at that point, we're like, hey, Liverin, you got to delete that photo you took of the unknown. And she's like, no, I can't. I'll have nothing to placate Sixo. And we're like, hey, we'll protect you. Just do it. Like that's an order essentially. And she's like, okay, fine. All right, as we begin to travel, Fragile and Liverin start to talk. Fragile says she forgives Liverin as long as the only reason she's doing all this stuff is because Sixo like really blackmailed her. She's not doing it for money. She's not doing it for herself. She's not doing anything else. And if she finds out that Liverin lied to her, that she's going to kill her herself. And then Fragile's going to kill herself because that's the biggest punishment she can give to Liverin, because Fragile's like the most precious thing left to Liverin in her life. Later on, Liverin explains that when she did meet up with Hammering in the area that we're going to, Hammer was looking for something to help the unknown, like a crowbar or something, but then they got attacked by raptors and split up. They both agreed they were meeting at the white building that Liverin was hanging out in, but that Hammering looked like real bad. We hang back a bit and contact Shifty about the information we requested on Pathfinder from before. She mentions that Liverin, most of what she was saying was true, that her and Fragile worked together really closely along with her sister, and then all the work stopped. And so they got permission to do courier jobs because they're no longer delivering materials and stuff. And then Ingrid tried to move them all to like scouts or AZX or whatever, but the central government like shut that down because they didn't want a return of like the situation with the Goddess Squad, where the Goddess Squad became like so notorious, or not notorious, but so famous that they outshone like the central government. Part of the reason they believe that is because there was too many Nikkes in the squad, and so they've restrained Nikkes to being in only squads of 3. Unless there's like very extenuating circumstances. And then she continues to talk about how like about a month ago, all of Liverin's communications ceased. Like the only communication she had in that month was like Ingrid talking to her about coming to help us. But like, why would she have no communications whatsoever? And then clearly she was still working and getting stuff and having like brand new items. And then even the phone she has only came out like a couple weeks ago. But there's no information on her buying it or getting it delivered or anything like that. Shifted and talks about how it would be impossible for one person to be able to like cancel out all these communications or hide all this stuff. And so the 60 individual is obviously connected, or, you know, there's like other stuff going on with that. Eventually we get to the last place that Liverin and saw Hammering, and then we find a bunch of Nikke and Rapture parts. So we look around, don't find anything with Hammering, and then we see crystals coming out of the walls trying to get to the Nikkes, but then they burst out of the walls and then they fade and disappear. Right, because they are not connected to energy or whatever. And Shifty reports there's a lot of fluctuations of energy in this area. And they all talk about how it's like a hive, how it's like a crystal chamber here, but like an old broken one or something. No Hammering though. And so we tell Neon to activate her supervision so that we can follow her. And she leads us to a spot where she's like, oh, really try drilling over here in this area. So she's just going down on the crystals, and we're just like watching her because she seems very intent, and we're just like concerned about her. So we start questioning her about, or just kind of talking to her about her and Hammering's relationship. And we learn more that the whole thing with like Drilly being super moral and like doing things for the right reason is really Hammering's issue. That really kind of like, she helped Drilly make that decision and kind of choose that life path, because at times Drilly thought about just like robbing people and whatnot, which is a lot easier than like mining and digging up stuff. But that because of Hammering, she decided not to do that. That she decided to stay in the straight and narrow. And then she starts to tear up, and we go to like remove the tear from her face, like wipe her tears away. And the Reppy gets concerned, obviously, because she's like more into being our wife at this point. But then she like sees how we're helping Drilly and everything, and she kind of just like allows it to happen, if you will, without saying anything. Like first she's like, Commander, and we're like, yeah, and she's like, no, never mind. Shifty then calls in and is like, hey, the unknown is like is coming at you guys like super fast. And so the unknown like rolls up and then fires right at us, and the whole place like turns to light. And then we kind of wake up a little bit later, and we're lying in like a puddle of water. Our operation device is all jacked up, and it's just us and Rappy. And she says that the unknown like blasted the floor, and then we fell down here, and then everyone else got separated to go somewhere else. But the question is, why would she do that? And we'll find that out very shortly because she's standing there with us right now. So she mentions that the crystal chamber that we were in was trying to absorb us, that it was pushing, it was making holes in our shoes and then pushing crystals up through there. I'm like, that's crazy. And then we look and it's like, oh, she's right. So she saved us. And we talk a little bit about what would happen if the crystals absorbed us. And she's like, I don't know. And then she's like, follow me. And so we start following her. And Rappy's like, is there something we can call you? And she's like, I don't care. Call me whatever you want. And so we're like, Coffin. And she's like, no, call me Grave. And then we start chatting with her and asking her questions. But she mentions that it's hard for her to talk because she hasn't spoken in so long that she's kind of forgotten how to talk. But then Rappy kind of peppers her with questions. Like, did you cause these crystals? No. Why do you hate humans? They electrocuted her. They betrayed her. And then why is she trusting us? Because we don't do any of those things. We saved her. We thanked her. We don't shout at her. We don't electrocute her. We're not human. And we're like, okay, we promise never to be human. And she's like, good. And then she asks more about like, hey, do you have any association with other Nikkes? No, I knew like 3 others, but they're all dead. And then some other things. And eventually she talks about like her purpose of her life is her mission. What is her mission? I don't want to talk about it. Rappy's like, I respect that. And then she turns it on Rappy and is like, what's your mission? And Rappy gets kind of quiet about that whole situation. And then the Grave starts talking about missions and how missions are the most important thing and they give you purpose to life and a reason to live and all this stuff. And then Rappy notices us walking funny because I didn't mention this before, but when we fell, we like broke our foot and we've just been kind of like powering through because we don't want to be like a burden. And so she forces us to take our shoe off and she notices it's all jacked up and she's like, get on my back, I'm going to carry you. And you're like, no. And then Grave drops her coffin and pulls, it's like a medical container, right? Like we'd established before. And so she pulls out a tonic and is like, put this stuff on your foot and then drink this. But with the coffin open, Rappy notices something and approaches Grave. And then Grave starts freaking out and is like, stay away. And Rappy just keeps walking. And then inside we see Anichiro. And it's like, Anichiro? And then, that's right, from Radash. And so Rappy starts freaking out, being like, why do you have a heretic? What's going on? And then Grave's like, you're a liar. Don't call her a heretic. That's not what she is. And then she starts firing. And then Rappy starts firing. And they start shooting at each other. And then at some point, Rappy like sees an opening. So she runs at Grave. And then Grave pins her down with her casket on. Is about to blow her up. When Rappy executes like the Red Hood protocol and her, her hair goes red and she like throws Grave off against the wall and then Grave starts freaking out, calling her like, why are you Red Hood? Why did you steal Red Hood? You're a liar and you're a betrayer and you're a thief. And they fight some more. And then, Anise and Neon finally show up and it's like 3-1. So then Grave grabs, the coffin, shuts it up with Anichiro and runs off. And she's calling us betrayers and all this stuff. And, let's see. And then there's a lot of calling Rappy human and whatnot. And then, so we talked to Anise and Neon, and they're with everybody else. They're all safe and fine. And when they heard the noise, they came over to help. And also, they found Hammering. And we're like, oh, how's Hammering? And she's like, maybe you should come see for yourself because Hammering is doing very poorly. Her whole body is full of crystals, and it's not going great. And she's stuck against the wall. So we canned Alec, our operational device, and then we have the girls, like, get her off the wall, right? Like, smash the crystals and yank her off and whatnot. Once the operation device is good to go, because Alex is phenomenal at her job, we contact Shifty and say, hey, we need the reclamation site. We're going to head back over there and take care of Hammering. We get Trony to get together at like a mind cage or a brain cage or whatever. And then we talk to Hammering and she's like, I can move. It's pretty rough, but I'll be okay. And Drilly gives her like a hard time. And then as we're moving, Hammering it starts talking to Drilly about the Harmony Cube, about wanting to see it, about not wanting to leave before they get something out of this, so it's not just complete waste. And so we decide that, yeah, we're going to do that. So we check with Fragile to see how long it would take back to get to the reclamation site. And she's like, oh, I can get us back there in like 2 hours. And Liverin is like, no, maybe we should just go. Maybe Hammering needs some help. We should get going. And she's really going kind of hard in the paint about just like leaving and getting to the reclamation site as fast as possible. But we decided to go check out the Harmony Cube. We get there, everyone's super impressed. We get a little closer, find like there's like the mini glass city, like that building we saw earlier. And that someone mentions that the glass is probably being used to keep away the crystals, right? To protect the Harmony Cube as it's trying to like do its job or whatever. And so Hammering wants to smash up some of the glass city so we can take it back for like examination and whatnot. So she's about to do that when Liverin's like, okay, let's go, let's get out of here. And then someone's like, man, you're in a little hurry to get out of here. What's going on? And when she turns, Fragile notices something and swipes a bottle from Liverin. And the bottle has crystals and batteries in it. And she's like, what? Are you going to take this back to the Ark? And we're all like, what are you doing? And so she grabs the bottle and makes a run for it. And then Fragile, because her inhibitors are turned off from like the previous chapter, shoots up her legs. So she falls on the ground. And then she wanders up and smashes the bottle. And then she puts a gun to Liverin's head because she's going to kill her. At that point, Hammering's body explodes with crystals reaching up towards the Harmony Cube because it wants to create a crystal chamber. So Rappy runs and knocks off her head to save Hammering's life, essentially. Drilly gets it and mentions that there's still some crystals in there, and it's like before anything else can go on, like killing Liverin, which they should have just done. They have to fight the crystal chamber. So we fight, and then afterwards, we re-engage the inhibitors. Rappy grabs Liverin, Anise grabs Hammering's head, and we all follow Fragile back to the reclamation center, or the reclamation site. A bit later, we're chatting with the counters about everything that occurred after we got back. So Hammering is being built a special container for her head. They will not take her into the Ark, so she's on the surface in like a secret camp. And Drilly made some deal so that she could hang out with her and stay there with her. Liverin is in the detention center, right? And as the police, like ACPU supposedly, or maybe even Triangle, like the military police, were taking her over there. Fragile like lost it, and there was some sort of incident. Maybe she just attacked her again or something, but it doesn't say. It just says there was an incident, and so they put Fragile in house arrest, and she's not allowed to leave because of like whatever crazy things she was doing. And what about electric shock? They're doing great. They had no problems. They're doing paperwork, right? Trony and Alig undamaged. There's no psychological damage. There's no betrayal, nothing like that. So they're going to rejoin us later. So what about the crystal area? The central government has determined it to be perilously dangerous, and so it's going to be destroyed. They're going to send Absolute up later to destroy it, and we're gonna back them up, right? So that's our next mission. We then check in with Shifty about 6-0. There's nothing, no information. We talk about the darknet some more and all that stuff. And so we mentioned, like, should we come back and help you kind of dig up stuff or look into it? And she's like, no, you guys got another mission coming, so stay on the surface. We then get kind of like 2 epilogues to this portion of this little arc, like story arc. The first one is we pick up with electric shock. They're talking about everything that occurred. They talk about how the crystals are unstable and unusable as like an energy source. And then at some point, LA gets a text from 6-0 being like, I want information, no price. And Aleg's like, how about you go fuck yourself? And then Trony is like, what was that? And Aleg's like, it's spam. Meanwhile, in the detention center, Liverin gets a phone dropped in on her, and it's 6-0, of course. And we find out there was another secret that 6-0 contacted Fragile, and that's how she knew about Liverin, and that's why she wanted to come on this mission to fulfill the promise of killing her and killing herself. But that she didn't. 6-0 kept like one secret that Liverin had away, and so 6-0 still has one secret that's just between her and Liverin that we don't know about at all. And so Liverin's like very thankful, but she's essentially 6-0 like negs Liverin into being like, hey, in 1 hour I'm going to set fire to the detention center and you're going to escape, and you're going to bring, to make up for all the BS you did, and because I still care about you and I want you to be happy, you're going to bring me Hammering's head and all will be forgiven. And Liverin's like, okay. And then they hang up the message and Liverin's like, I'm so fucked. Which wraps up chapter 30, which was excellent all around. And hopefully this time the video won't delete itself off my phone, or I won't delete it by accident, because I have no idea how I did it. I literally just copied it over to my computer and then it was gone. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.